Now, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Trustee Cheney?
Here.
Trustee Foster?
Here.
Mayor Newhart?
Here.
Trustee Calora?
Here.
Trustee McKnight?
Here.
Stephen Gaba?
Present. May I have an authorization, motion for authorization to pay all approved and audited claims in the amount of $515,881.56.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This evening, we have actually 3 public hearings on the agenda. And we'll start with the first one, the public hearing on the application of Patrick Corcoran for a special use permit. And if you would read the public notice.
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the Village Board of the Village of Warwick at Village Hall, 77 Main Street, Warwick, New York, 10990, on the 6th day of November, 2023 at 7:30 p.m., or as soon thereafter as the matter can be heard that day, on the application of Patrick Corcoran for a special use permit to establish a 3-family dwelling with a total of 6 bedrooms at 43 Wheeler Avenue in the Village of Warwick. Tax map section 207, block 5, lot 1. The village board will, the above date, time, and place, hear all persons interested in the subject matter hereof. Persons may appear in person or by agent. All written communications addressed to the village board must be received by the village board at or prior to the public hearing.
Very good, thank you. So we'll open it up to the public, and if you would like to speak to the board, address the board, but also give us your name and what you're interested in speaking about. So,
I'll go first, I guess.
okay, yes, sir.
Yeah, my name is Keith Murphy. My wife and I live at 41 Wheeler Avenue in Warwick. 2 months ago, a number of Wheeler Avenue neighbors sent a petition to you regarding our support in Mr. Corcoran's apartment building proposal. I'd like you to read that letter into record and also add some additional comments. We, the undersigned, are concerned citizens residing on Wheeler Avenue and the block that includes 43 Wheeler Ave. It is our understanding that the Corcoran family wants to build a 2-story apartment building on this site. It is also our understanding that this property could be developed as a commercial property, which may include a larger building footprint and be up to 3 stories in height. We firmly believe that a commercial building would not be compatible with or appropriate for a family-oriented residential neighborhood. In the village's Central Space Strategy Report, page 13, a resident survey supported Main Street area development with, quote, infill buildings with retail on the ground floor and office space or residential units on the second floor, end quote. However, the report also stated, quote, with the exception of Wheeler Avenue and McEwen Street, the suggestions followed the Main Street pattern above, end quote. In other words, the public did not want commercial buildings on Wheeler or McEwen. In addition, on page 12 of the village's 2022 comprehensive plan, goal Q1 seeks, quote, to ensure new development in the residential and commercial zones is in character with the existing built environment. We respectfully request that the Corcoran plans for an apartment building be approved and a commercial building not be approved. It was signed by almost everybody in the block that I live on. Nobody refused to sign the letter. Some people just weren't home when we went around and asked. On a personal note, it seems to me that in light of your current regulations, the village can exercise the most influence regarding a residential building request. It is my understanding that if you reject Mr. Corcoran's residential proposal, he can return with a commercial plan that would not require variances nor public hearings. Furthermore, the building could be 40 or more feet high, thereby dwarfing all neighborhood buildings, could have minimal setbacks versus the 10+ feet in the current plan. Parking would be optional versus the 3 spaces proposed, and quite frankly, an architectural monstrosity could result. I understand your reluctance to set a precedent by approving any large building on Wheeler Ave. May I suggest that you approve Mr. Corcoran's proposal and then consider a temporary moratorium on new commercial building requests for Wheeler Ave and similar areas. Hopefully this will give you the time to propose changes that are appropriate for all of our neighborhoods. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Murphy.
you.
Appreciate
Can I, Patrick Corcoran, we
Sure.
obviously own the site, and we have that application in. And I think I'm going to go to Keith Murphy for references next time, because he seems to know a lot about it. But thanks, Keith. So we started this process back in September of '22. Nearly every month, we missed a couple of months in summer between planning board, planning board, planning board. This is our third village board, so we're over a year into it now. We see that the village attorney, well, yeah, I paid $560 for this, so the village attorney has reviewed everything all the way back in 9/28. So that's over a month ago. So I'm assuming the board has had enough time. And since then I've been sent to architectural review boards, etc. So I'm hoping we can get a resolution tonight. And I guess that's all I can say about it. I don't know if there's any more information you can be given or anything you need from me. I think I provided everything that was asked for. And
Mr. Corcoran?
yes.
I'm the village attorney.
Oh, okay. Nice to meet you.
Well, nice to meet you too. On an application like this, well, what happens is there's a public hearing at which there's usually a presentation on the proposed development. I know everybody pretty much knows what the development is, I get that. But still, there's a process that has to be followed, and you need somebody to say, this is what I propose to build, this is the size of my lot, this is what it's going to look like. And there are particular findings that are set forth in the village code that the board has to make. And not only does it have to make them, but there has to be a basis in the record for the board to make those findings. So I know it may seem kind of pro forma, it may seem like you're covering old ground, but it would be really helpful if you could just say, you know, this is the property, this is how we propose to develop it, you know, we now meet the requirement for lot size, we've got a variance. You just kind of spread, it doesn't have to be long, but I mean, just spread it on the record so the board can make the findings.
Can I do that now?
Yeah, this is the time to do it.
Okay, so is there any questions in particular that you would like to ask, or is there anything?
I think it would be good if you described what your project is to
Okay,
the board.
oh yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
So,
I do have a question at some point.
Okay, as soon as Mr. Corcoran's finished, so.
all right, so it's a proposed three-family dwelling on the block and lot. 43-wheeler, how about that?
That's fine.
It's
That's,
43-wheeler. So it's a three-family dwelling. It's taken up 36%, I believe, of 33% of the land of the property. It's taken up 33%, which is actually by village code the maximum a residential lot can take up. Even though this is a commercial lot, which can be taken up 85% or more with variances, we're opting to go the residential route because we spoke with neighbours, and like Keith said, they don't want it in their in the neighbourhood. So we decided to go with three-family, and I think that's that's what we came up with. I'm not sure if I need to prepare something more than that.
Well, can you talk about parking a little bit for
All right, so parking. So I had submitted a plan to zoning and planning that had 6 parking lots on it, legal parking spots on it. They did not like the shape of the building. They did not like the garages at the front of the building. They asked me to change the building, put the garages on the side, and they gave me, I believe, they gave me a variance to do 3 parking spots instead of 6. But my original intent was to have 6 parking spots, and I was asked to change it, and they approved that.
So you have 3 off-street parking spots?
No, 3 on, I have 3 on the property, and of course we're less than 100 feet away from the 12-hour parking lot there on Smith Street. But again, I had 6, and they didn't like the look of it. Now, whether that's their, I've been told since that they shouldn't probably have said that, but they did.
It's that they're allowed to do that.
Can I ask a question about this?
Of course.
My My understanding was that the first site plan that they had asked for changes to had only 5-foot setbacks, which was not allowable, and so there was a request for the 10.
No, they're 10-foot setbacks.
I looked at the site plan that was originally provided and it was 5-foot setbacks. I looked at it again this morning.
Do you have it right there?
Yeah, let me pull it up. Hold on a second.
Yeah, it was 10 foot.
You
Got it.
Yeah, it's 5.
5-foot setbacks, yeah.
Do you want to see it?
Let's see, 5 foot.
That was your original plan.
Yeah, but that's not,
Original plan.
yeah,
This
can you,
was the original one.
can you scroll over?
Did I scroll too far?
No, I think that's it. All right, so there was a. Okay.
That was the
Alright.
original plan.
All right, so the original plan was actually based on, the original plan was based on the setbacks for commercial property, which is 5 foot, not 10 foot.
I see.
And they asked us to change it to residential and turn it,
And
so,
delete the garages.
and delete the garages.
Can you confirm that the 5-foot, because in the table that was provided, there was a table that was provided with the updated site plan that had articulated the setback requirements, and it stated that the minimum required was 10, and then also your table on this submitted site plan said that the required setbacks for a central business district were respectively 15 feet, 35 feet, and 10 feet, and they were replaced with a proposed 5 foot. It's on that same plan.
Right.
So I'm trying to understand where that 5 foot
That's-
requirement
well,
came
sorry.
from.
We were at the variance review board, right? So we were looking for the maximum, obviously, right? So we requested 5. And then through the course of the meetings, we had changed the elevations, removed the
So just to
garages.
clarify though,
So-
that 5 foot was not the
Well, I
allowable.
don't know what's on the site plan, but I can tell you the variance
But the
says,
variances we received were based on this plan that I have.
Yeah, the
That
10
was the
foot.
original,
The
correct.
variance was for the 10 foot.
Correct.
I just want to kind of make sure that I understand
Yep.
the setback requirements for the central business districts were not 5 feet, it's 15, they're other numbers.
Right.
Okay, thank you. That's all. So the first site plan didn't meet the setback requirements. That was one of the things that was an
Yes.
issue, and you were asking for the 5 foot. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay.
So we went ahead and got this one approved with zoning and planning. Well, it's not approved by planning, it's based on this meeting tonight, hopefully, that will go back to planning.
So just for you to understand part of the process, it's not really to string you along, but it's actually that each of these boards has different purviews and different things that they have to look at. You initiated with the planning board to get a special use permit. That should have probably been earlier in the way that it unfolded, but it didn't, so here we are.
I agree.
But can you speak to that at all, Steve?
well, there are a number of considerations that go into the special use permit. So for example, one of them is lot size. Now you got a variance from the ZBA, which is fine as far as that goes, but this board never got a chance to consider lot size. Now, again, I don't think it's gonna be an issue here, but in orderly process, normally you'd come to this board before you went to the ZBA. You know?
I do not disagree, however, I did see counsel from the town, or from the village, I'm sorry, and I followed every direction I was given from the village clerk.
Nobody said you did anything
Could
wrong.
I comment on that?
Yeah.
Because there was a memo from the planning board attorney, February 23rd of '23, that told you had to come to the village board for a special use permit.
Okay,
So, anything, I don't know what you heard subsequent to that would have
Did he say I
told
had
you
to do it before planning, or did he say I had to do it after planning? Or did
I
he
don't
give
know
it-
that it said, it just,
Yeah,
it
no,
gets,
it didn't-
it's,
it didn't
it's,
say it.
well, again,
I know it
you
says,
know, our-
I'm not disputing I have to go to the village board.
there are,
That's not dispute.
yeah, I mean, there are attorneys, and you need to have your own attorney to work these things through
Okay.
for you.
You know, it's not that complicated of an application. You know, if I thought I needed an attorney, or if I was told I needed an attorney, I would have one. But to me, it's a pretty clear cut. We got the whole neighbourhood in support of the building. We're putting much smaller than what can go there. And I'm just talking by village code. I know we have to do meetings. I know all that good stuff. But just by the code in the village, that is a commercial lot. Can we agree on that?
Well, it's zoned commercial.
It's zoned commercial, so it's a commercial lot.
Well, it could be developed for more things than just commercial, but.
I understand
Let's
that.
get back to your app, if we
No,
could.
but can I finish first?
Yeah, please.
So it is a commercial lot, so I'm allowed to put a commercial building on it.
If you get the land use approvals,
Correct. Well, it's already zoned.
that doesn't mean you can build.
I know there's meetings I have to go through, I get it, but if I follow every rule in the code book, I should be able to do it in theory. Because that's why we have a code. That's why it's not shooting from the hip. We go to the code. The code says I can do it. Yes, I know I'm going to have, I know these guys are going to fight me if I try to do a commercial building. I don't want to do a commercial building. It's the last thing I want to do. However, I do need to develop the site. It costs me a lot of money. And, you know, it sounds to me like, well, I'll let the meeting progress, but let's see what happens I'm assuming you're going to vote tonight?
Probably not, because we have to have findings. And if we don't have findings, then it's hard for us to have that vote.
Resolution with the findings that you say.
So could you explain to me what the findings are? What is?
Okay, there are
Yeah.
two sets of criteria that have to be met. The first one is Village Code 145-120, which sets forth 4 criteria. That the proposed use shall be of such location, size, and character that will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the district, which is in which it is proposed to be situated, and not detrimental to the site or adjacent properties in accordance with the zoning classification. Second, the location and size of such use, the nature and intensity of operations involved in it or conducted in connection therewith, its site layout, and its relation to access to the street, so I was asking about parking, shall be such that both pedestrian and vehicular traffic to and from the use and the assembly of persons in connection therewith shall not be hazardous. 3, the location and height of buildings, the location, nature, and height of walls and fences, the nature and extent of landscaping on such site shall be such that the use will not hinder or discourage the development of adjacent land and buildings. 4, that the proposed use will not require any additional public facilities or services or create fiscal burdens upon the village greater than those which characterize uses permitted by right. Then it goes on to say that the board can impose appropriate conditions in regard to those conditions. The second section, set of criteria, is under Village Code 145-127. This has a requirement that minimum lot size be 22,500 square feet. As we've discussed, you obtained a variance. Multiple residences shall be constructed to resemble a single-family dwelling. I was just about to ask you about that. Multiple residences shall be consistent with the character of the immediate surrounding neighborhood. And then 4, if there are multiple buildings proposed on the lot, it lists like, geez,
Well, there's
8
not.
other
There's
criteria.
not.
Well, yeah, but we need to put that on the record, you see, so that we don't need to get to those.
Right.
So,
This letter was issued from the village engineer, right, during the engineer's review, which was, I believe, issued back in September, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I don't
So this is not ample, that's not ample time for the village board, especially with the last 2 meetings, and then with the last meeting requesting a public hearing, and now telling us and the public that the board has not reviewed or considered all those.
So
That-
tonight is
that's
a,
it
so
by
tonight
the-
is a public hearing.
Tonight is when the evidence gets put in to the record. The board doesn't do it on its own, it happens now. So I only had 2 other points real quick.
Yep.
The first was that there is only a single building, there are no other outbuildings or accessory buildings here? Okay, and second, could you speak to what the building's going to look like?
3 units side by side, 3 front doors, 2 bedroom buildings. We don't have a facade on that, it's under the job. But
What is there, a rendering somewhere?
I have the
So-
facade is in.
Yeah, we have from the,
Here.
I really have to assume, and excuse me for saying this, but I really have to assume you have been sent these drawings.
The rendering, no. I have the
Really?
site plan, I have the applications, I have the ZBA variance.
So
I have
all
the
these reviews,
correspondence.
so all these reviews between 8/2 and 9/28, this is all for nothing? I mean, what are all these reviews here that I was charged for? You can read them if you want, or I will.
Architectural Review Board report, which I did review. Emails regarding development, that's emails back and forth. I reviewed the special use permit application, as I said. Dave Getz, the engineering report, I read. Reviewed the file documents and prepared a report letter to the village board, all of which I did. Reviewed another email from Dave Getz regarding the 239M referral. Prepared a draft resolution to set the public hearing, which was adopted last month. And then an email to the board regarding setting the public hearing.
So were the approvals for the variances and planning board meetings not ever reviewed prior to the village board meetings? Because, you know, those meetings, are critical to making this decision, right? So
Yes.
why were those, and the elevation drawings, the renderings are part of those meetings, so for the
And
village.
they're part of our submission as well.
So-
Right, they're
one
part of
thing
our
that-
submission, so.
We
One
have
thing
to
that I'll
make
say,
this-
Oh, there it is.
I'm sorry,
There it is.
yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
so one thing I do want to mention is that the way it's supposed to work, as Steve had mentioned, is that now's the time specific to the village board to put everything in the record. Now, I've done my homework and I've read everything up to this point. And I assume others on the board have as well. That's so we come prepared. It's intended to be, again, put into the record today. So I think you've done some of that. In order to make the findings, we would need to have a discussion, ideally with council. So one thing for the board's consideration is that we could go into executive session after the public hearing and review everything that we've looked at on our own, what we've also heard tonight. And for each one of the line items that Steve mentioned, we can go through and come to the findings. So
Well, you can
That's-
do all that, Tom, I don't disagree, but what you really want is to have something in writing for the board to approve. Now, if you tell me these are the findings you want, I can write them in. But to do an oral resolution on a special use permit is just, I don't think I've ever seen it.
So it seems like what you had kind of prepared a draft is mostly there.
Yeah.
Except for some areas of clarity, which requires discussion. So the alternative is that we go into executive session at the very end of the meeting and we come out of there and do no more business and it carries on 2 weeks later. However, it is fresh in everyone's mind today. So we could spend time, I'm not saying we gloss over it and do it just verbally, but we could spend time and state the basis for the findings for each of these 6 or so points that require clarity.
You could absolutely do that. And you could do it in open session. You don't need to go into closed session unless you have questions for me.
I would like to request if that could be possible.
I'd like to get some reaction to that from the board.
I think that what Steve has given us is very basic and rudimentary, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done to clarify exactly what our position is and why our position is in each of the instances that are appropriate that we have to speak to. So I don't know, it's a 15-minute exercise.
But
Can we let us
Yes.
talk for the time being?
Well, you guys should probably
probably
complete the public
complete the-
hearing and then.
Yes, let's complete the public hearing. And there are other people who'd like to speak, so let's move forward.
May I ask
Yeah,
one question
of
just
course.
before we do that? So, there's also the 8 additional points for, from Village Code 145-127 that you had raised.
But those only apply if there's multiple buildings.
And there's not multiple buildings.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. I just thought that it would make sense for us to kind of walk through those at some point during the public hearing. But if they're not applicable, then,
You know, the way your code's written, it's kind of peculiar, but the way it's written is if it's not multiple.
yeah.
buildings,
And I
it
had the
doesn't
most
apply.
questions about those, so
Okay.
that's fine.
That's half the battle right there.
Melody?
Okay, I live right across the street from, I'm in 44,
Uh,
and I
would-
look at that lot every
State
day.
your name for the record, please.
Melody Brown, and I've been there for 23 years. And I just came back from the Outer Banks in North Carolina, and I see a lot of these cute little houses that you want to build, and they really are cute. They're up on stilts, there's one right after another, they're not even attached, but they're adorable, they're different colors. I don't mind at all what you're doing, I think it's kind of nice, I haven't seen the latest ones. I'd like to see, you know, residential. I'm concerned about the road. Wheeler Road at that corner is so dangerous. I sit there and I watch head-on collisions happen almost all the time. I sat there between 4 and 5 o'clock, maybe 2 years ago, and I took pictures of 53 cars. 43 of them were on the wrong side of the road, mostly going from Main Street to West Street. The other problem with Wheeler Road is that at the one end of it, there's parking on 2 sides of the road, which only makes it so that you can go 1 car at a time. You have to wait. Where I am on that corner, which is really quite dangerous, there is parking on the other side of the street. There's no parking on his side of the street. But if there was parking on the other side of the street, it becomes a 1-lane road. And then further down, when you come up to here, again, you have the problem with the parking on both sides of the streets. So I don't really think you have a problem with what Mr. Cochran wants to do. I think you have to think about what you want Wheeler Road to be like. Could it be a one-way going in one direction? Right now, it's a one-way, and you can only make a left turn. When we had COVID, a lot of people learned about Wheeler because they couldn't go through the village, so they're starting to cut across. So we get a lot of trucks coming through there. I have to back out from where I am because I'm not very good at backing in, and it's really hard to back out and you know, see around the other trucks and everything else. So it almost could be a stop sign, but it's not. It's really a turn. It could have speed bumps, which would slow people down, but I think that in all of your discussion of his piece of property, you really should look at all of Wheeler Road as a problem. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Bo.
Bo Kennedy from the town of Warwick. I am in favor of the project just based on the comprehensive plan we went through the past year or so. The idea of middle housing and more units in the village was always the idea. And I think there's 3 proposed here. If it seems like a good use for the property. If you shrink it, you're not going to get it back. So just my 2 cents on the idea of having those 3 units. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
If I could just say one final thing.
Yes.
At the last 2 meetings, and I don't mean to drag Bo into this, but me and Bo did discuss extensively about streamlining this process. At no point over those last 2 meetings was I told that we had to do this. I think that is this findings, I'm sorry, what's,
You don't have to do the findings, we have to do the findings.
And that
Yeah.
it was discussed. I specifically remember discussing those 4 key questions
yes,
that we
that
have
was
to
discussed,
respond
yes.
to.
And I thought that that's what was happening as they were discussed. I thought that's what this time was. And if that is not what this time was, then why did we schedule the public hearing if you guys are not ready for it?
It's-
think
We can't
Oh, you're
discuss
We're
things unless
individual
we're.
elected officials.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
No
I mean,
problem.
and
In a
so
meeting.
we have to discuss this with the findings from the public hearing. And we're
Okay.
individual elected officials, so we don't have like private meetings about
Right.
your project. we have to actually do it in the public sphere. So that's why you see us having these
Okay, so
repeated
that means the
conversations.
findings then, the list of questions or findings that you say should be discussed in this forum, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Unless there's
With
reason
the
to go to
public
executive
present.
session.
Yeah, so we go to executive session when we have to have private consultation with counsel.
And what determines that?
If they have legal questions or not.
Yeah. All right, so at what point during this public hearing are we discussing these findings?
We're not. We're gonna close the public hearing, and after that, the board will determine if it wants to try to flesh out findings here, or if it's going to wait, or what it's gonna do.
But why would it wait? I thought it happens at the public.
Yeah, I
it
mean,
will.
it seems
Oh, really?
contradictory.
Oh, so it's gonna happen when everybody's here?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right, so it's not gonna be when everyone's gone, right?
No, but it might be
Okay,
after
great.
they have questions that need to be answered.
Okay, no problem, all right.
And it might be this meeting, or it might be the next.
Is there anything else that you need from me to move forward with your,
Somebody has a
Discussions.
question in the back.
No, I
Yeah.
was just gonna ask, do you have any more agendas?
Oh,
Oh.
sorry, I'm done anyway,
All
so
over.
just if you need anything from me to,
Thank you.
Oh.
I don't believe so unless there's something that you can add to, you know, to give the board, you know, a sense of the overall project and, you know, I do have a question about parking, even though, you know, it changed to just, and you were given variances to have 3 spots.
yeah.
A 2-bedroom apartment has the capability of generating 4 cars.
Right.
So now we are talking about 12 cars and only 3 have parking spots. So I understand that the 12-hour Wheeler lot is not far, but that is in some ways imposing a lot on a municipal parking lot. There's only 9 spots in that parking lot, and many of them are used by the neighborhood already. So I have a concern about that. That's, I think parking is an issue in the village, as you know. You live in the village and you see it on a daily, you have a business here and you see it on a daily basis. So my concern is to have 2-bedroom apartments and and the intensity of that on the community in general.
Can I speak to this?
Of course.
So, for you to say that a 2-bedroom apartment would require or has the capability to produce, 4 parking spots, right? That's not the code though, right? The code calls for 6, right? So let's not extend that to 12, right?
And
Because
just a
the
correction,
code-
it doesn't
yeah.
call for 6, it calls for a maximum of
Of
2
6.
per,
Yeah, of 2. So let's go with that. Let's not go to 12, right?
Mhm.
And the planning board had the capability, and which they did, to reduce that to 3. So I feel like we're going back in a discussion that was already approved.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
so let's not, what I'm requesting is that let's not go to 12, right? If we're having this discussion, going back to discussion on parking, let's talk about 6, right? Of which we're saying we're providing 3 on property and the other 3 on the municipal lot, right? And
Is there
if
space in front of the
I may-
garage to park another
Right.
car?
There
Tandem?
actually is space, but, okay, so there's another thing, just so you know. We did actually have the 6 spots, but apparently, and I would say everybody at this meeting will attest to it, that they will not let us park 10 foot from the lot line. Now, every house, apart from I think 3 on Wheeler, is parked right on the lot line. Every single one of them. So why they're not allowing me to do it, when I can put an extra 2 cars there, is, and I brought that up at the meeting, I said, why would you not let me park there? You would prefer to take my spots away than to let me park on the, I said, I know neighbours both sides of me, their parking lots
Everywhere else in the village,
everywhere else.
not just on Wheeler.
Our own
everywhere
house
in
that
the
we built,
village.
how long ago? 2 years ago, is right on the lot line, but for some reason, parking is not allowed, they want it 10 foot off the lot line. Is there anybody here that has parking 10 foot from the lot line on Wheeler?
well, obviously the car goes through the lot line, your driveway goes through the lot
Yes.
line, but the issue is like the edges of the parking spot, is that
Correct.
the feedback that you received?
Yes,
That was,
and they would prefer to have 3 spots than to park on the lot line. That's what they told us. It's in the minutes.
And if
Well, they couldn't waive that, right? You would have had to go get another variance.
Okay.
So they gave you the easy way out, basically.
Yes.
May I ask a question? Has anybody like looked at the line of sight when you're coming around that turn to see like actually what it is like? If there's a building where they say it's, I don't even know now where how it's like situated. Whether the front is the front or the back is the back, but I know before they cleared it up, people cut the corner. After they cleared it up, people still cut the corner. So whatever can make it most visible for people when they're going around the corner would be the best thing. But if there's a building blocking what you can see, then there's gonna be head-on collisions.
It looks like the driveway, though, starts about, was it about 65 feet from the corner? That's where I'm just eyeballing it.
Well, the problem is
Probably, yeah,
that
you're probably right.
everybody cuts that corner both ways, mostly coming from west,
But they would be backing out and going to the right, and the corner cutting happens. I'm just trying to visualize
could
what
back
you're
out
saying.
either way.
Yeah.
Right, but it's coming in, if we look at the site plan, I don't know if you can see it from here, the street curves here, and then about 60, the driveway is as far from the corner as it possibly could be and still be on the site. It butts up right against the site.
Well, it's not
right?
the driveway, it's the building or cars or whatever that's gonna block the view so that people can see what's coming in the
It's
other
this
direction.
sort of elbow.
Because right
Yes.
now,
Yeah.
even the police cut the corner, everybody cuts the corner. Oh, I have pictures to show you, I mean, 43 out of the 53 cars cut the corner.
And many of those cars are going too fast.
Yeah, I guess what
Many are going too fast.
what I'm trying to clarify is that the corner cutting is, so you're saying they're gonna go like this? Cause this is the right-hand side of the road, they're coming this way, you're saying they're cutting like this?
Yeah, they're doing it in both directions, I can say, so.
This one they're on a straightaway, so that seems like that wouldn't be as much of a concern as coming this way.
I could come up and look, I can't actually. I'm sorry. So,
See,
I am here.
Yeah, here's the elbow. So the cars are coming down
This is the elbow right here.
This is the elbow, right here.
Oh, right here? Yeah, so they come that way
They're
and
on
go
the
to that
right-hand
side.
side.
They go from the right to the left, and over here they go from the left to the right. So it would, I mean, it's fine as long as you can see. If there's like a sight, a view for the,
Well, that's what the setbacks are for.
yeah. I don't know
You
what
might
the
notice I
purpose
actually
is.
cut the bottom 10 foot of that tree so people
That's
could
very
see
good,
around.
that's nice.
Hmm.
It has
I'm always
helped a
thinking.
little bit. It works much better though.
So I noticed in between the two site plans, so obviously the big change was the setback difference. So we went to a 10-foot from the 5-foot. And then additionally, the parking, which we've been discussing, and then also the play area. And there was some like patio space. So it seems like a lot of kind of the outdoor space for the residents went away. Can you talk a little bit, and it's not entirely clear from the facade image that you
Yeah,
provide,
sure.
what, if any, space there might be for residents?
So we actually did put in, based on the code actually, there's a section of the code that says the 10 by 10 play area should be left for family, I forget the term. And we actually did have it in there, and there still is room for it, but we were actually told by the planning and zoning to take it out. It's in the minutes. I don't know why, but there is still room for a 10 by 10 area.
Yeah, I can see that there would be room in that little,
Yeah, that's where we
near
had
the
it, yeah.
garage, yeah.
And believe me, that's no problem to put that back in there. But we were asked to take it out.
Yeah, and these are just questions, I'm not directing
Yeah.
you to make any decisions. And then in terms of so the site plan doesn't show like any patio area or any like sitting outdoor space
No.
for residents?
No.
Okay,
Aside from that we took out, but yes.
and so there's no room for that because then that would encroach on the 10-foot setback. The possible exception, I'm guessing, is this area that is no longer taken up by the parking.
There is certain things you can put in setbacks,
Right
but
here.
there is certain things you can actually put patios in setbacks.
Mhm.
I'm not saying we're going to, but there is the option, by all means, if we wanted, we could do it.
And this paved area here in front that is not, it's not apparent on here, but this paved area
A parking spot.
that, well, there's a parking spot here, but this area is paved but not parking.
Yeah, but that's a walkway up to the door.
So that whole triangle is
Yes.
walkway?
Yes.
So that's presumably like potential patio space for
Correct,
those folks.
yes.
But
Yeah.
then the folks that are in unit C are not gonna have any of that because they have a parking spot right in front of their door.
Well, the parking spot is 5 foot away from it
Okay,
to allow for a 5 foot walkway.
okay. And that's their spot anyway?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And according to what we are looking at, was there an allowance through the ZBA to have a car parked in the front setback?
Yes. They actually requested it.
They did, okay. I didn't see
Did
that.
they request it, or did they provide you with a variance
They
from
provided
having
us-
to do it?
The providers were there. Well, I had originally suggested parking the cars along the lot line, and through the discussion at the meeting, they said we could park the car there, so we changed our drawings, put a car there, brought back the drawings, and they were okay with it. They approved it.
And that's the spot that's forward of the front of the building and in
Correct.
front of one unit?
Yes, correct.
I'm having a hard time finding the ZBA, where the ZBA commented on the parking space.
I think, is this it? Do I have it open? Is that it?
While they're searching, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Did your engineer prepare a stormwater pollution prevention plan for the project?
It wasn't required.
Less than an acre of disturbance, so.
Is that it?
I
But it
thought our
doesn't refer
code
to the
didn't,
waiving
you know,
that
was
requirement.
less restrictive
That's what I was looking
than
at.
the state.
Well, the state is less than an acre.
Right.
It's not required.
Right.
So if it's less than that, that's why it's not required.
So am I correct in assuming that that particular, and is that requirement, Steve, is that the multi-building requirement for the parking not to be directly in front of the front door? Or is that only is that,
That's general in the code.
that's a general in the
Yeah,
code, but it
it's
doesn't
ours.
appear to have been addressed in the CPA comments.
Decision?
Yes,
No, I
so,
don't see anything in there either.
so if that's not there, they will just have to make that amendment in order for that to be compliant?
If it meets setbacks, then I think the planning board can take care of it. I don't think
Okay.
that they need to go back to the ZBA, but that's, I mean, if you're satisfied that there's sufficient off-street parking, and they do have a variance in hand for that, I mean, or not for that, for the setbacks, I mean, you know, I don't think it's an issue for this board to consider in regard to the special use permit. It's whether there's safe ingress and egress, that's the main
Okay.
thing.
Okay. I think those are all my questions.
I have a question. I'm not sure where, if it's in the village code or the ARB, where multiple dwelling has to look like one dwelling. It looks like the renderings look like 3 buildings. Are we gonna?
Does look like 3 buildings, and like I said, it was approved by planning and zone, that's what they wanted, you know?
I think the
They
idea is
did- they never did-
each of the 3 looks like a single-family
Correct.
dwelling, they're just close together, really close together.
Okay.
More like townhouses.
Well, yeah, but it's not like it's a stucco square with, you know, I mean, they're built to look like single-family homes. I think that that's not the idea here.
Okay.
I mean, if you find that that's unacceptable, well, you know, so be it, but that's the way it's being presented.
And then I see the ARB approved black windows, which would be a question for the ARB, because my understanding was that the ARB didn't want to approve black windows on other properties.
Not only did they approve it once, they approved it twice.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, this is a new build. I think
Okay.
that they were dealing with, it was the AHRB dealing with historic.
Okay.
District.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Those are my only concerns.
And Tom, do you have anything?
Well, are we gonna close the,
Not
Public
yet.
hearing first?
Let's hear your comments first.
or questions to,
Yes.
to the applicant? Yeah, I mean, I think of the alternative in terms of commercial, which I don't think fits the character of the neighborhood. Mr. Kennedy earlier had a good point about the comprehensive plan calling for more middle housing. I appreciate Mr. Murphy's comments as well about some of the other vision documents of the village, so I think I think given the circumstances, it makes sense. I do think that we are in position to go through the handful of findings while it is fresh, while we just heard from everyone. So those are my comments now, and that's what I would propose, but I know we're still in public hearing. I don't have any more questions for the applicants.
Would it be inappropriate to ask what the rental properties would go for about?
Are you asking me?
Well, I'm asking, would it be inappropriate
Oh,
to ask?
yeah, that's a good question, and I'll be honest with you, the longer it takes to build, the more expensive they're going to be, because obviously empty lots cost money, and I just saw these new fees that are quite staggering. So, listen, what goes into the building, you know, there's no, it's not, if you're asking the question, is it going to be affordable housing? No,
Right.
but it is going to be, what's the term?
With the market value.
Middle ground housing, I guess, you know? Have we set the rental on it yet? No.
Okay.
We'll see what the market is at the time. But obviously the more it takes to build and the longer it takes to build,
Makes sense,
you know,
yeah.
empty lots cost money.
And the same goes with your decision to make 2 bedrooms as opposed to 1 bedroom.
Well, what's the benefit of a one bedroom?
Like anything, it's housing. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
Bo has something before us, which is mostly 1 bedroom apartments, so.
Yeah. I guess in theory, one bedroom apartments are, you know, I'm assuming Bo is a developer, he has the numbers done on it, and it works for him. He can probably get more one bedrooms in than he can 2 bedrooms. I think 3 2-bedrooms is a good number, you know? I really do.
I go back to the intensity again, you know, I know that you're saying 6 parking spots, but I see, you know, that it does have an impact.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with the concern about parking as well.
So can we assume that, or can I assume, I should say, that the parking spots is a non-issue at the moment because we went through the variances and we got variances? I can provide other parking spots if there were I think what they done, they should have given me parking spots on the lot line. They did not want to do that. So hence I still have a garage door that's empty. There's a spot right in front of it, but because it puts the car 10 foot from the lot line, I can't use it. You know?
How would you feel about limiting the number of vehicles that occupants of the apartments, of the houses can have?
There's not a whole lot I can do about that because of the local laws. You can't say that I only want 1 person in there or 2 people in there.
No,
You can't discriminate.
The board could impose a condition on your
Okay.
special permit saying it's approved, but no more than 2 cars will be allowed per owner, and you're gonna have to have that in your leases. It'll be a note on your site plan and.
Well, there actually is a note on the site plan that I can only park on paved areas. They asked
Yeah,
me to
but
put
I'm
that
talking
in.
about parking on the street and parking in other places as well.
No problem, I would do that. That's not an issue.
I think that's a reasonable compromise.
Shallow, I think that it's unenforceable.
Okay.
We couldn't possibly manage enforcing that. And if the landlord didn't take it upon him or herself to enforce it, then it's up to us, and I just see that as being something that would be difficult to pay attention to, find out about, and do.
The parking on site?
No, no. If they had more than 2 vehicles per unit, they were parking them elsewhere, you've got that stipulation, but as far as the village being able to enforce that, I would find that very difficult to be able to do.
Or you'd have proof problems. Whose
Yeah,
car does
yeah.
this car belong to?
Yeah, yeah. And I think we're probably gonna find that other parking spot that's not allowed to be used will no doubt get used. And again, that's something that could be enforced, but who knows if it will be.
Do you think it should be?
Rules are rules.
Okay.
Steve, I have a question about the construction of this resolution. So for the draft resolution, under each of the items that we're to consider, it asks for kind of here more fully state the basis of this finding. But then we will also vote on the resolution.
Well, yeah. There's 2 ways you could do this. The first way is if the board's unanimous in its approval and there's no conditions and it's just not a problem going forward. The St. Anthony's, that might have been before your time, but there was a special use permit granted for St. Anthony's. There was no problem. So I took the facts that were in the record, I prepared a draft resolution, circulated it to the board came and sat down, looked it over at the meeting and said, we agree with what's in this, we're gonna vote to approve it. And that's fine if you wanna do it that way, that's no problem at all. But sometimes the board disagrees on things or has other thoughts, or maybe they just wanna flesh it out. And if that's the case, you can do as a planning board or zoning board would do and sit down and say, all right, there's 4 considerations under 145, 120, let's read off each one and go around the table and everybody state what they think. And you could do the same thing with 145, 127, although I think there's only 3 under that since there's not multiple buildings. So, I mean, and then I would take what it is the board's sentiment is and any conditions that you would, want to impose. And I would prepare the draft resolution based on that and give it to you for your next meeting, and then you would vote to approve it or amend it or whatever it is you feel is appropriate.
So my thoughts are that it would be appropriate for the board members to state their perspective on each of these items.
First, you gotta close your public hearing, but
Right.
then you
Right.
And I think what I would suggest is, if we decide to close the public hearing, that we then take care of the other public hearings, the rest of our agenda, and then come back to this at the end in fairness to the others that are here.
And run through each of the items, and then, so if we do it that way, if we run through each of the items and then we state our stipulations, are we able to vote on it tonight?
You could, there's nothing that prevents you. You don't need per se a written resolution, but I'm telling you, the way to do it with a special use permit or any other land use approval is by a written resolution, and there's no question as to what was said or not
Correct,
said or
yeah,
what.
yeah, no, I
So,
understand
the
that.
applicant may know where he stands at the end of the evening, but he's not gonna have in hand a vote on it because, you could if you wanted, but, and I've also seen that you could vote on it and then, have it drafted up and to embody what it is you say and then approve that at the second meeting. That's kind of 2 approvals, but
That's kind of
You
what
could
I
do it
was
that way.
thinking could make sense.
board's decision.
If it
I agree
means
with that.
anything, I would really like to know where I stand at the end of this meeting.
Okay,
Thank you.
very good.
I have a
We have
comment.
another.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, if I may,
Hi,
just-
Keith.
Just for my own knowledge, kind of a neophyte to this process, the findings, 6 findings that you have to answer, does that mean that you have to, by majority vote, approve each one of those findings? Or is there a certain number you have to approve in order to go forward with the final resolution? I'm not sure how that works.
The applicant has to meet every one of these criteria. If the applicant doesn't, then that special use permit would be denied. So the board's gonna go through and reach a consensus by at least majority vote, 3 members, on every one of these. That doesn't mean they vote on every one of these. It means they discuss them and then there'll be a vote at the end, you know, should we grant it, should we not grant it? That's why I need to know where they stand on these things. That's why they need to make findings.
Okay.
So-
Anyone? Okay, go ahead.
There's nothing, no.
Anyone else?
I'll make a motion to close the public
Thank you.
hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So we have a second public hearing for a special use permit on the first floor office space.
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the Village Board of the Village of Warwick at Village Hall, 77 Main Street, Warwick, New York, 10990, on the 6th day of November, 2023 at 7:30 p.m., or soon thereafter as the matter can be heard, that day on the application of Warwick LLC for a special use permit to convert existing first floor office space into 3 one-bedroom apartments, and to add 3 additional one-bedroom apartments on the second floor in the building at 8 Forester Avenue in the Village of Warwick. Tax map section 207, block 3, lot 3. The village board will at the above date, time, and place hear all persons interested in the subject matter hereof. Persons may appear in person or by agent. All written communications addressed to the village board must be received by the village board at or prior to the public hearing.
Okay.
How you doing? Bo Kennedy.
Hi, Bo.
I have a site plan, I don't know where you'd like me to put it, I don't have an easel. Right here in front, okay?
Yeah, that'd be fine, or you
Okay.
hold it up for us if you want to
That'll
show,
work.
point things out.
Point things out, so this, as mentioned, we're looking to take an existing office space and convert it into
Want to hold a few balls so you
residential, if you don't mind, that'd be great. We're gonna convert it into residential, it's this side of the building, known as what we call the Quonset hut. It's currently 2,400 square feet, we propose to go up a story, and so it'll be approximately 4,800 square feet. 6 units, apartments would be put in there, we have 3 per floor. We are proposing originally 1-bedroom apartments. The planning board had suggested 2 bedrooms as well. So we do have an alternative plan. We're not sold on any of that, but we
Okay.
do have an alternative plan with 2-bedroom on each floor, 1 2-bedroom on each floor. So you'd have, whatever it is, 4 1-bedrooms and 2 2-bedrooms. We have plenty of parking, no site change is being proposed. Water, sewer, all that stuff should remain, but that's to be determined as well as we go through the process. But right now, no changes on the site plan. We have, I think, approximately 44, 45 parking spaces on site. So more parking than we need for the existing office and even more so for the apartments. That said, here's the rendering where you go up a second story. I have a color rendering as well. If you put it side by side, I know it's hard to tell, but with the existing, it's basically keeping the same gable roof line, which was requested by the AHRB. I think we're good with this now. Is that all right?
Yeah,
Everybody good with
that's
that?
good. Thank you. Thank you,
Appreciate
Patrick.
that, Patrick. So, yeah, we're everything's pretty much remaining on the site plan other than going up a level and changing the use. The AHRB did, we are going back to them tomorrow, totally finalized, really giving them the samples, but they were all on board with the color pattern we chose, which is existing. We're not changing any
Sure.
of that, same color shades. Shutters, I think we're going hardy board on the top above the brick, which it's already similar to that now. It'll just be a little higher. We're well within the height restrictions, 40 feet, I believe. And again, nothing else is really changing. Anything else I can let you in on?
You mentioned that you have the alternate approach with the 2-bedroom. What's your
Yes.
determining, so are you going back to the planning board with that? Like what is
We are
gonna?
going back with that, and we will discuss it further to see what they prefer. There was 2 members that suggested we do 2
Yeah, I
bedrooms.
saw that.
And we didn't really want that, but the architect, Joe Iracy, was able to squeeze in a 2-bedroom and still allow us to have 3 apartments, which still makes the numbers work, as per comments earlier.
And they still meet the minimum size requirements for the,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think the 2 is like 700, I have it on the paper, but 750 plus or minus square feet. And the 1-bedrooms are 650 plus or minus square feet, so they're all within the realm. So they're smaller, they will be market rent, That said, I think they'll be more affordable than other apartments out there, and they will be brand new, so. I think it's a good project for our property to end up being a little more mixed use. It has been very difficult, we still don't have tenants knocking on the door. You know, so the office space has been a difficult market to capture.
We didn't have any documentation that it might also be 2-bedroom. Is that something that we have to consider?
No,
Okay.
no,
thank you.
it's the use, not the number of,
Okay.
you know, of course, that can play into considerations, such as parking, but parking's
Yeah, it's not
gonna
an
be a
issue.
problem.
Okay.
So if that gets changed down the road,
It doesn't
there's
have
no
to come
need to
back
come
here.
back here because it's the use.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was my question. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to clarify.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All makes sense to me?
Yeah, I think it's a good project, and I think you have your ducks in a row. So,
Okay?
Yeah.
There is one thing, planning board is reviewing the site plan on this?
Yes,
Have they completed secret review?
no. No,
So
they have
this
not.
board can't act.
Right, I understand we're gonna keep the public hearing open, and then, once we're done with
Fantastic.
seeker, we'll come back,
Right.
go from there,
exactly.
right?
When are you before the planning board next?
Next meeting, I think it's the 14th, but I'm
Okay.
not 100% sure. Yeah, so we should have everything pretty much completed by then.
I think it's next week.
So we keep
Is it
the
next
Yeah.
week?
public hearing
Yeah.
open until we have a seeker.
It's your choice as far as that goes, but if you close it and then something else comes up, you gotta renotice it as opposed to just holding it over till the next meeting, in which case you don't have to put anything in paper, you don't have to mail out anything, you're all set. So it kinda makes more sense to, because you can close it and act the same night if you have a mind to. You need to, as we've discussed at some length, know what your findings are gonna be, you know, so it's important that you have some understanding. It sounds like you're in favor of this project. I mean, I'm just reading the tea leaves here, I'm not asking
Yeah.
to vote. But if that's the case, then I can prepare a draft resolution and circulate it for, as soon as he gets a secret review completed, and then you can consider that.
Is anybody not in, does anybody have any concerns about the project?
I'd like to hear from the public,
Yeah,
if anybody's
it
here
it
to
is a
speak.
public hearing.
It is a public
That's a
hearing.
good point.
Yes,
Tom Scott.
Mr. Scott.
Depot.
Yes.
Whereabouts are you changing the elevation? I mean, adding on? I didn't see the picture.
Right here, we on the hut, so, right now, as you mentioned earlier when we started, it's this side right here,
Okay.
right? The barrel roof's in the back of this,
Yeah,
it's kind of
yeah.
like a false, gable roof.
Okay.
So that's gonna come up, and then this will be all gable roof, it won't have that false front. So you'll see it in the back as well, that picture right there.
Okay,
you know,
there's a
the
closet,
peak.
there's a,
Right.
okay.
Yep.
And so it's all gonna be in line?
This will still be lower than the existing, the other side of the
You're
building.
not touching the hospital, the old
No,
hospital?
Not touching any of
Yeah,
that, it's just
historic.
this
Okay.
specific section of the building.
All right.
Just the windows, there's windows on every, except for the, I guess, the right-hand side as I'm looking at it. There's windows on, no, on the new structure on the second floor.
Right,
So there's windows all around.
yes,
Yes.
there will be new windows on all the sides,
Yeah.
including the back. The second story will have 3 new windows up top. I think there may be, I think there's 2 windows on the bottom now, and there will be 1 added, I believe. I have those renderings too, I can dig up.
It's okay. I think I just wanted to get a sense of it.
Yeah. And we are going back again tonight, tomorrow to the AHRB
Okay.
to finalize all that, so.
Mhm. Okay. So it's, what's the pleasure of the board, whether to close the public hearing?
No.
Or wait, let's have the public speak if they'd like, please, I'm sorry.
I just had my say, I have no problem.
Okay, Mr. Scott? Okay, no comments from the public at this point?
So I'll make a motion to leave the public hearing open until we get the results of the planning board's environmental review.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
All right, thank you, everybody.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
And I guess-
You too.
Okay. And then we have a third public hearing on Village of Warwick temporary moratorium.
Yes.
Please take notice that the Village Board of the Village of Warwick will hold a public hearing on the 6th day of November 2023 at 7:30 p.m. at Village Hall, 77 Main Street, Warwick, New York, 10990, on a proposed local law entitled The Village of Warwick Temporary Moratorium on the Acceptance and Processing of Applications for Approval of Public Utility Facilities Involving Energy Storage Systems. The purpose of this local law is to promote the public health, safety, and welfare by enacting a 1-year moratorium on acceptance, processing, and approval of applicants for land use approvals for public utility facilities involving energy storage systems, in order to allow time for the village board to research, develop, and enact local regulations sufficient to oversee the approval and safe operation of the same. A copy of the proposed local law has been posted on the village's website and is on file in the office of the village clerk, and available for inspection by interested persons during village clerk's business hours. The village board will, at the above date, time, and place, hear all persons interested in the subject matter hereof. Persons may appear in person or by agent. All written communications addressed to the village board must be received by the village board at or prior to the public hearing.
Very good. Thank you, Jen. So with that, we'll open it up to the public for comments. Again, please state your name for the record. Tom.
Just one comment about the storage. After the fire was down, the 2 fires we've had, I know this is why you're bringing it up, but has anyone looked or brought up to the manufacturer what they used to use in the old data centers, which was a halon system that would extract the oxygen out of the air to put fires out, like when it used to use it for computer systems?
Mm-hmm.
Has that ever been brought up? Is that technology still available?
So there is a suppressant system that they have within these units. Whether it's that or something like that, I believe that from the many discussions we've had with Convergence and the manufacturer Palatin, they talked about the suppression system on the Church Street site worked and it failed on the school systems site, on the school district site.
Because this is going to be something, not only us, but every community in the country is going to have the same issue.
Mm-hmm.
So if something can be built into this, it might cost them more, but it's a suppression system, it's safe for everybody, the environment, the firemen,
Would you do me a favor? Do you have any of that information that you could pass?
No, I used to work in a data center and we had halon systems, and as soon as that kicked out, you had to get out or else you suffocated. Supposedly. And also some of the UPS systems back in the days when they had batteries
Mm-hmm.
for backup for the data centers, they had suppression systems of some sort.
Don't they use them at like wastewater treatment plant substations? I'm looking at Perry. They use them at, I think they're still in use in some
Well,
In certain areas, you
Yeah.
can't mix water, the batteries because of the acid and
Right.
everything, but something to pull the air out to suffocate it is what's really needed.
Isn't that what happens at,
Within the
Yeah, I'm not
chamber.
sure what the
Jones
chemical
Chemical.
I'm not sure what the chemical process is within each of the units, but it seems to be something similar to that, and there was just so much water, I guess, that had gotten into the one at the school that the batteries just kept feeding on the water, and
Okay.
they started melting the plastic, and the plastic is what burned, and the heat continued to generate from the batteries, which is why it went as long as it did as compared to the one on Church Street, which the system, I guess the fire itself didn't exceed the capacity of the system to suppress it.
Gotcha. Okay.
But we could submit the question
Yeah.
to them.
Absolutely.
It's just
Yeah.
something that
I will.
they may already have something in place, so maybe the unit wasn't big enough for it. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and actually they came, I don't know if you had an opportunity, if anybody's interested, I think, which meeting was it? That we had a recent meeting where they were here and there were a lot of questions posed, and then also Orange and Rockland was here.
It was the last meeting.
Yeah, I think it was.
The second meeting in
16th of
October.
October.
Yeah, so if anybody's interested in the discussions that happened there, that's, it was pretty fruitful.
And available online.
Yeah, and they talked about their suppression system at length, yeah.
And under correspondence on this agenda is actually from ONR, because the question came up, I believe, through Carly brought it up about an update on whether there's a lot of conversation about the system's ability to support our needs, and that's why they developed these battery backup systems. Without battery backups, so where are we? I mean, last summer I guess was okay because there wasn't the demand that is normally there. But if there is a great demand, where are we? And so we're going to have a meeting with. They're going to be part of one of our board meetings to give us a sense of exactly what they're doing on that end, especially if there's a moratorium as well. Anyone else? Yes.
Scott Brown,
Scott?
village resident. I guess my comment was similar to what you just said about O&R still not having made a statement about their ability to cover our needs. Apart from that, it seems like a moratorium is a good idea in light of the unexpected results that we saw.
Mm-hmm.
And especially also elsewhere in New York State, apparently. So it seems like this is a good idea.
Yeah.
They did say that they would not be able to put any replacement system in place until late 2024, I believe. So I think this is kind of in case there's any new opportunities.
Right. I did hear
Yeah.
their presentation, was very happy to hear the presentation. I'm looking forward to hearing more from them about how they're gonna reduce the risks.
Yeah.
Very good. Board members, anybody else?
It's just that at this point in time, all we're dealing with is public utility facilities. So it doesn't have anything to do with residential battery systems at home that that might be attached to solar, or commercial properties that have the need for battery backup systems and alternative power systems. So that's not part of what this moratorium covers.
Public utilities is what this is aimed at.
Yeah, okay. But we still would have the latitude, as we are developing the regulations relative to public utilities, to also look at those other
Oh, yeah. Oh,
property,
absolutely.
those other types of uses. Okay, good, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Do you want to, could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Carly, you're on.
Yeah, I was wondering, do we want me to proceed with this, or do we want to push this to the next meeting?
We still got a ways to go, so maybe we could.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Did anybody come tonight specifically to see the presentation on the Veterans Memorial Park Master Plan?
Okay, better wait till next time.
Are you
Okay.
sure? You don't mind coming back? Okay.
Okay.
All right, yeah, and then I can also email the stakeholder advisory group and invite them to attend.
That would be great, yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Thank you.
Okay, and then under announcements? Do you have that announcement, Jen? On elections?
Oh, you want me to make that?
Yes, please.
Okay. Village of Warwick general election will be held on Tuesday, March 19th, 2024.
Okay. And under correspondence, as I mentioned before, we have an email from Orange and Rockland Utilities stating that an update will be provided to the Village of Warwick sometime in early December regarding their ability to support Warwick's needs without battery storage systems.
Do we need to do more of an announcement than that for
For the election?
general election?
Yeah, it seemed like there seemed to be more.
There's a full document.
I thought so. I thought it was like, okay.
I can pull it up.
Sorry to put you on the spot, Jen. I
That's
didn't mean
okay,
to.
that was not, it's okay. Do you want me to go ahead and take it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where is it? I couldn't.
It's
I
in
found
here.
it.
Uh-huh.
All right, you want to read it?
Do you want to read it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Legal notice, Village of Warwick general election, Tuesday, March 19th, 2024. Please take notice in compliance with section 15-1043A of the election law that the next general village election for the offices to be filled in the Village of Warwick will be held on Tuesday, March 19, 2024. The following offices will be vacant at the end of the current official year and will be filled at the general village election to be held on March 19, 2024 for the following terms. Village trustee, 5-year term. Village trustee, 5-year term. By Village of Warwick, New York, clerk Raina Abramson.
Very good. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
It's buried down there.
Okay. Under discussions this evening, Tom, this was something that you wanted to bring to the board's attention, the intersection of Pond Hill and West Street.
Yes, so I received some comments from residents that on Pond Hill, especially during school bus hours in the morning and afternoon, that due to a number of cars lining up all the way to the stop sign approaching West Street on both sides of the road, that it does create some visibility issues for people turning onto West Street and for people from West Street turning onto Pond Hill. I spoke with Chief Rader. He sent a sergeant out to look, and he agrees that that does pose a visibility issue. So the recommendation is for a no parking sign or signs to be, I guess, determine the exact placement with DPW from the stop sign to a reasonable amount of feet, so that it doesn't create visibility and safety issues. So that was the discussion point for tonight. I think the next step would be to ask DPW to walk that out with a tape measure and figure out the number of feet so we can determine how many signs are needed.
And also for the code, correct? I mean, it has to be
It has to be descriptive.
descriptive in the code, so,
Yeah.
So my understanding is it will require a public hearing
yes,
and a local law.
okay.
It would be the same, would the distance be the same as what we had to do out here on Main Street when we put the parking spots in to keep people from passing and hitting pedestrians potentially?
I do not know that.
Okay.
Well,
I
that
think
was
it's the same.
dictated by the state DOT.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that was, I think,
This doesn't
15
need,
feet.
this doesn't need to be dictated by the state DOT.
But it
My
could be
question is
consistent.
is there a standard requirement in state vehicle and traffic law that you can't park within a certain number of feet of an intersection?
No, not that I'm aware of. But usually though, you need at least your highway superintendent or DPW superintendent to give you something in the record to state why it is you're doing what you are doing. So if you want to put up no parking signs, it's fine. You may want to limit it to weekdays between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. or something like that.
Well, I think it's a visibility issue, right? Like if a
Just
car
in
is
general.
parked there, you can't see around them, and so generally we don't have parking spots within like 15 feet of an intersection, so.
And it's not just parking spots. I think people will drive their kids to that intersection, which is a bus stop. And they'll park all the way up close to the stop sign.
I see. And that's been an ongoing issue, I think,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, and my thoughts on it are, I understand that West Street is busy, especially that time of days. I'm wondering if this is an issue at any other part in the village with school bus stops and visibility and parking issues.
Probably anywhere there's a school bus
Right?
stop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I see it on my street too. So if we're addressing one spot, I think maybe we should look into the other spots.
I think each spot will have a different take in that the reason why, for example, on Pond Hill, it's a pretty large neighborhood, and I can understand why parents drive their child, their small ones, to the bus stop instead of having them walk. And so then they stick around to make sure everyone's
on the
secure
bus.
and safe and
Yeah.
gets on the bus. So what happens is that there's a lot of activity in terms of cars and parking needs. So I
And
think,
also there are kids who walk,
yes.
right? And so there's no sidewalks there, so even with the visibility issues, they're walking on the middle of the street there.
That's right, that's correct. So I agree with what you're saying, Mary, but I also, I don't know if we can do it generically. I think we
Okay.
have to kind of look at each spot. And
Okay.
I mean, you bring up your own neighborhood on Orchard Street, but it seems like the houses are closer together, and I don't know, is there that parking issue that happens as well?
I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but they
Yellow bus?
pun intended.
End of the yellow bus?
People do park at the business at the end of Orchard Street. There, as far as I know, there hasn't been any complaints by the business owner. It's only for a few minutes. But ever since they did that construction on the sidewalk there, I've noticed no one really has been parking there.
Could I suggest that we get the information from the school as to where the bus stops are? And then we can
Evaluate them.
evaluate it, have our DPW supervisor evaluate it, and come up with a list without taking too much time that would include probably more than just the Pond Hill.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
Okay. Who's going to take on that task?
I will. I'm not a morning person though, but.
Okay.
My other thought is if there is a no parking sign, I'm afraid that people will still park just, and maybe their reaction would be like, well, it's only for 5 minutes. It's only for 10 minutes. I'm just here to drop my kid off.
It's probably gonna have to say no stopping or standing,
Yeah,
Right.
not just no parking.
no parking.
Right, because otherwise they'll say it wasn't parked.
Right. I'm in the car, I'm not parked.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point, Mary.
And we'll keep Chief Rader informed as to what is happening too. Okay. And are you going to talk to Mike Mosher about getting the information in terms of meets and bounds?
Yes.
Okay.
He was out there last year to look at it.
Okay.
But we didn't write down any descriptors.
Okay. Okay. So if you can get those, then we can send them on to Steve. Okay, the next thing under discussion, and Tom, this is your baby as well, community choice aggregation. We have a motion, actually, not to become a community choice aggregate community, but, to move the concept forward. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah,
for the
so
public?
we've had several presentations from a potential provider on this, more so to help us understand the concept of what is the CCA, the benefits of a pooled purchasing power to help with people's rates, and also give us an opportunity to take advantage of renewables in that process. And we're also aware that in order to jumpstart that process, we have to make a resolution, Steve, is that right?
Local law.
A local law, which really just authorizes us to start the process. It does not commit the village or its residents to anything. It's really just starting the process. So we presented on this for the past almost a year, right? So my thought is, we do have a resolution on this. So anyway, that's what that's about. It's not committing us to anything, but it does get the process rolling.
Yeah.
Any thoughts or questions on that?
I mean, it's a good idea. I understand why we're doing it, but I still have concerns with the opt-out versus an opt-in. And the way the document is structured, it causes us to do an opt-out situation, right?
I think the idea here is, and Tom is correct, of course, in saying that the local law would not commit you to engaging in a community choice aggregate program. It would enable you to,
Right.
but it wouldn't require you to do it. At the same time, the draft local law, the model local law that the board considered, does have some substantive provisions in it in regard to how a community choice aggregate program would work in the village. So what, as I understand it, the board is looking to do tonight is say, all right, take the model law, craft it as a village law, and then you will discuss, we'll go over it, the terms in that community choice aggregate local law that you would be enacting as part of your code, and you'll decide what you like and what you don't like, and what you want to keep and what you want to change, and then when you're in a position to move forward with it, you'll hold a public hearing on a local law, and I'm sure the public will have something to say about it. That may shape your view on things, and, you know, eventually you'll get where you want to go, but that's, Tom also pointed out, this is the beginning. You start here, and you have a draft to work off of, and you go from there. So your concerns about opt-in, opt-out, and Lake Berry is something that can be vetted in the course of looking at that draft.
Okay, that would have to occur, right, when we look at the draft. So we can't have it either way.
Well, you can tell me what you want, and I could put it in, but I would think.
Well, we can have it either way, but I mean, down the road, we can't. In
No,
other words, we
you've gotta
can't
choose.
we can't say, you know, we're gonna look at both opt-in and opt-out.
No, you gotta pick between the two. You could draft the law one way and then amend it later on if you change your mind, but I mean, you know.
That's a pretty big change.
Yeah, it is.
Can you say more about your concerns about the opt?
Yeah, I don't think we should be necessarily making some of these decisions for people automatically. That it should be something that they decide whether they want to participate or not. That's the way the program that the utilities have used for the past probably 20 years. You know, you decide which energy provider you want. You decide the mix of renewable energy versus fossil fuel energy based on pricing. And, you know, I feel that it's, you know, it's an important right that people have to be able to do that. But at the same time, I understand that there could be benefits beyond what one would see if they were doing it on their own by being together.
Do you think that most, like, that opportunity is transparent?
What opportunity? You mean the
The
opportunity
current
to opt out?
opportunity, no, the current, I know that the opportunity to opt out will be because of the extensive engagement that's going to be associated, but the opportunity that people have currently with their relationship with Orange and Rockland.
I seem to get a lot of options presented to me in the mail frequently. So, you know, you can act on them or you can ignore them.
Well, I think that it will kind of reveal itself, and I think, you know, this is a good starting point, of course. We need a starting point. And we can look at that. We can also look at other communities that have either opted in or opted out and to see their success or their, you know, success rate. So I think that's going to be very important. Okay, anyone else? I'm going to move on to public comment. So if anybody would like to speak to the board this evening, it's your moment. It's on agenda items only. Okay, with
All
that,
right.
we'll move on to motions and Barry.
Motion to accept the proposal for engineering services from Barton and LaJudas dated November 1st, 2023 for a lead service lateral inventory program and authorize the mayor to sign the amendment to the master services agreement with Barton and LaJudas at a not-to-exceed cost of $50,000. So you want me to give a little bit of an explanation?
Well, let's do a second
Second.
first.
Sorry. So we received a grant for $575,770 as part of the bipartisan infrastructure law. And it is going to allow the village to find out where there are lead service lines within the village serving individual homes. Since 1986, lead has been banned, so anything that was constructed after that would not have the lead issue related to it. And the first $50,000 is going to be used to look at the data that we have, compile it, present it, and then try and figure out what our next steps are going to be as to finding out more detail about what we have where. Galvanized, we're not, we don't feel, based on work that has been done throughout the village in terms of service line repairs, water main repairs, that we're seeing actual lead piping. But we do have lead goosenecks, which is the connection to the main, it's the service connection to the main. Many of those are lead, older ones are lead, and if you have a galvanized line, then it's considered to be a lead service line. Eventually down the road, the hope and expectation is that the government will continue to provide the funds that would be necessary for the village to replace all those service lines. Right now, we really only have responsibility to the curb stop, which is, you know, fairly close to the curb, and it's the homeowner's responsibility to take that to the house. The way the program's structured, the expectation is that the feds would be funding the entire length of the service line. So that's pretty much it. And just, you know, one other thing in the documentation that was provided to the board and as part of the agenda, there was a document in there that had the terms and conditions that were being proposed by the engineering firm, Barton & Judas. And just for everyone's information, especially the board, we have a master services agreement with them. This would be an amendment to that agreement, and the terms and conditions in that agreement have been reviewed by our attorneys, so we're satisfied that they reflect what's in the best interest of the village.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions from the board?
I just noticed a couple things that I wanted to flag, and that the grant appears to require a 20% MIBI-WIBI requirement, minority and women-owned business.
That's
and
correct.
so they would, interested in how they would be meeting that requirement, although that's not material to the conversation tonight.
Right.
And then finally, their proposal includes sort of the necessary outreach and engagement to residents, that they would take photos of their meters with the pipes. And we have an upcoming newsletter in December, and it could make sense to
Perfect
include that
opportunity,
request.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Very good. Did you take a note?
yes.
Okay, good. So we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to authorize the mayor to enter into a temporary revocable license agreement with the Warwick Grove Homeowners Association and their snow removal contractor, Wright Brothers Landscaping, to allow 2 pieces of motorized equipment to be parked inside the fenced area of the sewage pump station located off Miss Stuckey's Circle.
Okay.
Second.
Discussion?
Okay.
Go ahead. Were you gonna say?
Yeah, I
things?
was gonna say, to my knowledge, this is the second year of
Same as
this.
last year.
There were no issues last year. It was a pretty quiet winter. And so there have been no changes to the license agreement. It's exactly as it was last year, except for the dates.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask about, any liability to the village. And
We
that's
went
been-
over this
Yes,
last time.
yeah, I
around.
remember,
There's
yeah.
a hold harmless, and they have insurance. I'm really not concerned.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Good. So we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I have a resolution for the unpaid Village of Warwick fiscal year 2023 to 2024 tax collection, where I have to read all of this, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
whereas according to real property tax law 1436, on or before November 1st, the tax collecting officer must deliver an account of the unpaid taxes to the Board of Trustees, and whereas attached is an account describing each parcel of real property upon which taxes are unpaid. the person or persons in whose name the property is assessed, and the amount of unpaid tax totaling $65,643.08 for the fiscal year 2023 to 2024 Village of Warwick tax collection. And whereas the Village of Board of Trustees has compared the village clerk's account of the fiscal year 2023 to 2024 unpaid taxes with the original fiscal year 2023 to 2024 tax roll and has determined that the account is accurate. And whereas each member of the village board shall execute the attached certificate, which recites that the account and the tax roll have been compared and found to be correct, and that the total amount of taxes paid for the fiscal year 2023 to 2024 is $65,643.08. And whereas the signed certificate and account describing each parcel of real property upon which taxes are unpaid, the person or persons in whose name the property is assessed, and the amount of unpaid tax totaling $65,643.08 for the fiscal year 2023 to 2024 Village of Warwick tax collection will be returned to the Orange County Commissioner of Finance's office prior to November 15th in the year in which the levy is made. And whereas these facts must also be included in the official minutes of the Village of Warwick, and whereas within 15 days of the tax collecting officer delivering an account of the unpaid taxes to the Board of Trustees, the board must file the tax roll and warrant in the office of the village clerk. A copy of the tax roll must be permanently retained as public record. Now therefore, be it resolved that the facts set forth in the foregoing paragraphs are hereby included in the official minutes of the Village of Warwick, and the village board shall undertake the actions described herein.
Second.
Okay, it's a roll call.
Trustee Cheney?
Yes.
Trustee Foster?
Yes.
Trustee McKnight?
Yes.
Trustee Kolar?
Yes.
Mayor Newhart?
Yes.
That was a short one.
I know.
I'm gonna give you the bond resolution.
You can keep that. Motion to increase the total cost for landscape architectural services from Karen Arndt for the preparation of landscape master plan for Veterans Memorial Park to $15,617.50. The increased project cost of $15,000 was previously approved on June 20th, 2023.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Question.
Yes.
Is this it?
This is it.
Okay. So,
Unless
so anything
there's-
going
yeah.
forward would have to be a new contract.
A new contract, exactly, for specific pieces of the master plan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then am I gonna table this motion until our next meeting? Although I could make the motion and then we could second and then we can discuss if there's any comments. And then the presentation could happen next time.
Yeah.
Vote on
Oh,
it
they
if we have a
table
motion.
it.
Unless there's a motion to table after you make the motion in the second, that would supersede it.
Can I ask the board whether they've had the opportunity to review the master plan?
I was hoping to see the presentation.
Yeah,
I have,
that's
but
true.
Okay, all right. Well, then I'll make a motion to table the motion and then we'll just do it next week.
That's fine.
Next week.
second.
With-
Plus
I'm
one.
okay with that.
Table
Okay.
or withdraw.
I'll,
Technically, it's withdrawing.
all right. I make a motion to withdraw the motion.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion to grant permission to the Woodland Hollow Learning Center to use the Veterans Memorial Park Pavilion for a family picnic on Friday, June 7, 2024, from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Request includes use of restrooms and barricades to close the road leading up to the picnic pavilion. Parking for the event will take place in the McFarland parking lot and in the parking lot next to the over 35 baseball field. Completed park permit and proof of insurance have been received.
Second.
Question.
Yes.
Just relative to the parking, I mean, that's a busy time at the ball fields. So there may be, parking may become a premium, depending upon how much activity there is in the fields, but I'm sure it'll work out fine.
Okay, that's good to know, and we should pass that on to the school so that they,
Yeah, is
Maybe
that,
they could park more on the McFarland.
Yeah.
Well, they should,
Parking lot?
yeah, they should fill that, but that's still probably 25 spaces
Yeah.
maybe.
And
so-
maybe the library, the part of the library lot that's near the,
will kickball be happening at that time, right?
Friday night. That's Friday. This isn't, is it a Friday?
It is Friday.
It's Friday from 4 to 7,
Oh.
so it overlaps a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm sure
It'll
we
be a
can work
very,
it
very
out.
busy time.
Yeah.
And is there a reason why parking details need to be in this motion?
Is it in
It's
the
saying
motion?
it, yes, it shall be in this area.
Well, I mean, they,
It's part of our
Part of the
facility
park.
use.
issue and it's part of the,
facility
permit.
use permit.
so it gives us an appreciation for, you know, without delving into actually the permit, that we know that how much parking they're gonna require.
And what the plan is for the parking.
Kickball is where in the park? Which field?
That, the over 35 football complex?
Yes.
That's where.
It's
So-
on the other side of the park, so it's right at the.
So I'm imagining because they're using the pavilion that they're going to park at that very end.
Right.
Yeah, so that should be okay.
I mean, that's where the spots would like, well, at 4 o'clock, probably that whole park, or that whole parking lot's gonna be empty.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be,
Yeah.
you know, kind of first come, first served for them.
Right.
Right.
So I guess the concern would be people coming in at 6 or 5 to play kickball. Parking might be
Well,
limited.
Little League, softball and baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll probably
Okay.
get crazy around 7:30 when games switch out.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I think, you know, we have some time to figure it out too, June 7th. So. And I think if we give them the heads up, that will be helpful for them too. So, and
Well,
also.
give everybody a heads
Everybody
up,
heads up,
yeah.
yeah, exactly.
All the users.
Okay, so we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to authorize the mayor to enter into an agreement for repayment of water and sewer charges from with the property owner at 15 Ridgefield Road, Warwick, New York, in the amount of $1,482.22 to be paid in 4 quarterly installments of $370.56, and authorize the mayor to sign the same.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion to direct the village attorney to prepare a draft local law authorizing the village board to enter into a community choice aggregate program for the purchase of energy on a village-wide basis.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And Mary?
Motion to approve the budget modification request as per the village treasurer's memo dated November 1st, 2023.
Do we have a
Second.
Just discussion, I couldn't find this one. This is a 109-page packet we have here.
Yeah.
It's on page 102.
Just give me a second.
Keep
Let me look at this.
scrolling.
Yeah.
That's just transferring from one fund to another.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
They're line items.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm good.
Okay, so we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Tom?
Okay, motion to authorize the mayor to execute the 2024 DOT and non-DOT drug and alcohol testing agreements with Partners in Safety, and to authorize payment in the amount of $848 for the 2024 DOT and non-DOT consortium fees for the drug and alcohol program at a rate of $53 per employee. Funds are appropriated in budget code A4010-4910 in the 2023-24 budget.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
In regard to this next one, I mean, of course, if you want to read the whole thing, that's fine, but the board, since it's going to be difficult, the graph set up the way that it is, you might want to consider a motion to waive the reading, and then you just read everything from the first whereas down through, now therefore be it resolved, the village schedule of fees is hereby amended as follows, and then everybody can vote on it. But again,
That's kind of you.
That is kind of you. So do we have a motion to waive the reading of this resolution, of the resolution amending schedule of fees?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 So then, resolution amending schedule of fees to change building and planning fees. Whereas Village of Warwick Code 64-1 provides that a comprehensive schedule of fees, including building department and planning board fees, be approved by the village board. And whereas in order to amend the village's schedule of fees to change the building department fees and planning board fees, it is necessary for the village board to adopt a resolution. Now therefore be it resolved that the village's schedule of fees is hereby amended as follows.
Second?
Okay.
So discussion?
Yes.
One of the ones that I know jumped out at me and looked into this is there's an item for category planning board subcategory cluster development bonus density units type of fee. The amount was $50,000 per dwelling unit. Has always been in there, but it is removed and being added just with clarity such that it's not an application fee.
Correct.
Previously, I believe it was miscategorized as an application fee, but instead it is just a cluster development bonus density unit planning board fee. So the fee is the same, it's just now properly referenced in the code.
Correct.
To avoid confusion.
Yeah.
Other than that, let's see, there's a few planning board application related fees, rather nominal, and then the addition of, or the clarity of adding an escrow, such that when an applicant comes before the board, they pay into the escrow, and then those funds are drawn down as fees normally would until it gets to a certain point, and then they would need to be replenished.
Right.
That is a practice that I don't think had been formalized up until this point. And then should the application process end and there's still money left over in the escrow, that's returned to the applicant. So this is just, I think this is otherwise better clarity, and there were some, I think it's a better itemization of the application fees. Any thoughts, questions, comments?
I have a question. Oh,
No, there you go.
I've been talking a lot. You go first.
Well, I want to just mention that Raina Abramson, the village clerk, had a lot to do with going through this and reorganizing it, getting ready for our new planning board secretary. And so, and there were fees that were required within our code, but there was no connection to the fee schedule. So this really does make a lot of sense.
Well put.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Just a question on the sign fees. A new sign is $50 and an alteration is $50. It seems like there's, going to be a difference in level of review and attention to each of those, and that a new sign is going to be, I would think, taking more time than an amended or altered sign. So I just didn't know whether that came up in the thought process of the discussion, and it was felt that they were close enough that it should be the same, or whether it should be different.
They are almost the same, actually, Barry, if you look at it. A new sign application is really starting from scratch, but a sign alteration / relocation is almost starting from scratch as well.
Well,
So
if there's an alteration but not a relocation, and basically the frame for the sign was gonna stay the same, there'd be I would think there'd be considerably less review required. So. But if we think $50 is right for the new sign application, then
I actually did ask Raina about this, and my understanding is the way that these, and so your comment is kind of in the same spirit as my question. My understanding is that the way that these were structured was from the planning board attorney looking at other municipalities and then aligning the approach with other municipalities. But the approach that we've been using to update our other fees has been based on actual cost to the village. And so my question to the board is whether we should be consistent in our approach, and instead of looking to be consistent with other municipalities, we should be developing or updating any fees or adding any fees or, you know, according to the code, so that it reflects the cost to the village as opposed to, you know, so that's my question.
I guess if it's not $50, it's maybe gonna be 75 or 100, so it probably is something that isn't gonna get challenged. You know, it's like those big ones that we did our homework on and came up with a fair representation of what it actually costs to do things.
I guarantee you, you're gonna be able to justify a $50 cost.
I know
whether it's
that.
new or-
Yeah,
Well,
I'm
I
not,
mean,
Unless you
I'm
want
not
to jack up
concerned.
these fees, I wouldn't delve into how many hours
Okay.
or minutes it takes for your building inspector to look at them.
Yeah, I'm not
Are you
concerned
talking
about
across the board?
justification. Yeah, I'm concerned, these all seem justifiable, and I understand the approach that was used. My question was just about consistency and approach.
Yeah, there's another thing to point out here. So under the planning board application fees, again, this was suggested by the planning board attorney and chairman, planning board chairman, to represent the work that goes into it. But if you look at the planning board application fee for a final site plan, $500. However, if someone goes to the planning board and it's determined that they need to do a few extra things or their site plan is not complete, they'd have to go back and incur more costs. That's why the fees represent, there's a $350 preliminary site plan review, which is basically incentivizing the applicant to go through that prelim, and then when if they have to go back and there is anything else they have to put in supplementary, there's that supplementary $150 fee that brings them up to the $500 fee anyway. The whole point is to prevent applicants from going back and forth, right, or coming back multiple times and incurring more fees. But I will say that in this process, the work that the team did to have a new planning board application is far improved on the old one. It lists sections in the code where applicants should look. It is basically a much clearer guidebook to help people through the process. And that's one of the things we've learned over the past few months, unraveling things. So this fee schedule, I believe, is in support of that, and it's a very good revised application process. Any other questions on this one?
No.
I don't have any
Good.
questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we have a second.
That's it. Carly, did you second?
Yeah.
I did.
Okay.
So all in favor?
Roll call.
Oh, thank you.
Trustee Cheney?
Yes.
Trustee Foster?
Yes.
Trustee McKnight?
Yes.
Trustee Kalua?
Yes.
Mayor Newhart?
Yes.
Resolution enacting a local law imposing a one-year moratorium on land use approvals for public utility facilities involving energy storage systems. Whereas heretofore the village board has considered the adoption of a local law entitled the Village of Warwick Temporary Moratorium on the Acceptance and Processing of Applications for Approval of Public Utility Facilities Involving Energy Storage Systems. And whereas following due notice, the village board held a public hearing on the proposed law. Now therefore be it resolved as follows, that the village board determines that the adoption of this local law is a type 2 action under seeker, and 2, that the village board hereby adopts the local law, and 3, that the local law shall be effective immediately and shall be filed in the office of the Secretary of State in Albany as required by applicable law.
Second?
Okay.
Just
Yes.
quick discussion on the length of the moratorium. It's established to be 1 year. However, if we get working on it and get it done sooner, we don't have to wait the 1 year. We can, I guess, lift the moratorium. So.
Okay. Very good.
Okay.
So we have a second roll call.
Trustee Cheney?
Yes.
Trustee Foster?
Yes.
Trustee McKnight?
Yes.
Trustee Kalua?
Yes.
Mayor Newhart?
Yes. Okay, and then we do have an addendum. Mary, do you want to do the addendum? Thank you.
Motion to hire Devin Fox for the position of Village of Warwick office intern at a pay rate of $16.50 per hour at 32.5 hours per week for the period of December 28th to January 17th, 2024.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's it on addendums. Public comment on non-agenda
Are we
items.
gonna go back to the 43-wheeler
Yes, I was going to do that
after
with the
public
meeting.
comment?
after the public comment, yeah. So. And there are no public comments. What is the pleasure of the board in terms of,
I would like to make a motion to go into executive session to seek advice of counsel.
okay? Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
There's discussion. So will we be coming back following the executive session to
And finish the.
talk about the findings?
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's on
I think I'm-
it's on
I'm
the
o-
list, yeah.
I'm Close enough.
Okay, so we can meet in my office. That makes it easier.
I just need to step out
Yeah.
for a moment and then.
Okay.
We are live until
See where it's all at. A little different. Thank you, I appreciate that. Yeah, we've been doing it a long time. Chad,